Tyler is working to update the 2011 Lake Tyler Master Plan. Some people say they're worried about what the city's vision could mean for water quality, safety, and the character of the lake. KLTV7's Emma Burns explains.
The Tyler City Council was presented the master plan for Lake Tyler, a long-term vision outlining possible ideas for the lake's future. The proposal includes concepts aimed at improving water resources and recreation, and according to Tyler Water Utilities Director Kate Dietz, providing a source of revenue for the city to make improvements on and around the lake.
But we looked at different ideas and tried to cast a vision for what we can be doing in the future.
But for some lakefront residents, even the discussion raises concerns. Some claiming they feel as though they were left in the dark during the planning process and are unsure on what this plan could mean.
No clear communication, no meaningful engagement, no representative, and no voice.
How did you set the vision? As you've heard, we did not have input.
Residents worry more visitors could mean busier boat traffic, more safety risks, and a greater strain on the lake they say is already changing.
I understand the concerns of the people that live there, that tourists come, they utilize the lake, but they don't have as much care for potentially what the water quality implications are.
Major issues the master plan is drafted to address are water and environmental quality, an increase of law enforcement and security presence, and upgrades to recreational areas. For now, the master plan is still a draft, but Dietz shares that even after adoption, the plan acts as a guide and can be altered to meet the needs of the community. Emma Burns, KLTV 7 News.
And looking ahead, the Lake Tyler Master Plan will be presented to Tyler City Council for adoption.